My name is Jamie Stark. I look after voice interoperability and networking for the product formerly known as Microsoft Link, now known as Skype for Business. I like my colleague Bill Vertine started off his session saying that he's going to put $1 into the pot for every time he says Link accidentally. I think that's a little dangerous on my perspective, so maybe a quarter. I look after these parts of the business, and this is kind of going to be an overview of the voice sets of capabilities of Skype for Business, and I have this kind of fundamental value proposition that we're going to go through. Oh, hey, how's it going, man? It's all good. No, come on up. Oh, he's starting the timer. Okay, good, because I will go long otherwise. And so we're going to talk about all these things up here on the slide, and we're talking about PBX features and going to the cloud and how to kind of go through and think about all this stuff. Really kind of heavy based on the features thing. But for those of you that were rolling in and got a seat a little bit early, you saw the vision video that we recently rolled out. First did this a couple months ago at Enterprise Connect, and it shows all of these just pretty, almost, futuristic kind of scenarios. And I just wanted to, I know a lot of folks have seen it, we've shown it at the booth, and we've shown it at BJ and Ben's session, but I just wanted to kind of refresh everybody's memory. And it really is something that, we use to think about as far as where communications can go, like where our North Star is. We think that replacing PBXs and providing an alternative there is really important, but that's kind of not where we end. That's not our end state. It's not our goal. So I wanted to pick out one kind of scenario here and dive into it in just a little bit more detail. And this is the real-time broadcast, automated broadcast translation, right? Upper left-hand corner, you have somebody kind of getting ready for their meeting. They see, people coming in the audience. They start presenting, and their presentation not only is delivered over their native language, but it's also delivered over a variety of other languages, and everybody kind of joins in their native language. It's inspiring, like the types of things that potentially technology can do here. And this isn't fiction, right? This is actually something that we're working on right now in the Skype consumer side. So if you're not familiar, there's a product called Skype Translator. It's in preview. And what it allows you to do is talk into Skype in your native language and have it come out and be translated into a language of your choice. Right now we support 3 in this preview. We support Spanish, we support Italian, and we support Mandarin. There are others that are coming down the road as well, but the biggest thing that we need in order for this feature to really take off is everybody's utterances, right? This is how the automatic language translation functions, is that we need to have lots and lots of great speech data, and then we feed that back into the system, and the system gets better and better and better. So that's why it's in preview. We want everybody to go and try it. If you haven't tried it, it really is a pretty magical experience. But I was thinking through this a little bit, and I was like, that scenario that they showed, we're not that far away from it, actually. There is the potential to take the Skype translator capability and have that plumbed into Skype for Business and actually kind of show you now, hopefully here, what that potentially can kind of look like. And so without further ado, this is going to be the first time I've really tried this in front of an audience. is a demonstration of the Skype for Business translator. And so what you see here is actually the Skype translator, and it's running, but I'm piping this into a Skype for Business peer-to-peer call. You can also do this with meetings, right? When I actually had it set up and running against meetings, it was actually running pretty solidly. Now I'm using kind of a Mickey Mouse headset, so right now it's picking up all the echo and all the stuff from the room, and so it's going to be kind of goofy, just to kind of prove to you that this is actually This is actually running Skype for Business. Let me go in through here. I've got it on full screen right now so everybody can see, but you'll notice this is very clearly a Skype for Business UI with inside of it the Skype translator capability functioning. So let's go see what this looks like. So now I'm talking into the system. Again, I could be giving this presentation, having this go into a Skype meeting. And then, of course, with the broadcast meetings capability that Greg was just talking about in the last session, we have the ability to go and take this and stream this up to Azure. Now, this is actually now, of course, tuned for two-way conversations. So it's not designed for me just to kind of talk at it consistently. But you can see that it's pulling the real-time translation, and it's editing it. Clearly, I'm not talking off of a script, so there's a great opportunity for this to be misunderstood in some cases. But it's pretty good. Let's take the questions at the end, because I'm already guaranteed to be a little bit over time, but I appreciate it. So anyway, what I wanted to show is that this is the stuff that we're excited about. This is the stuff that we get up in the morning, when we come into work, and we think about the possibilities for human interaction, the possibilities that we can do as we think about what we can functionally apply software to really interesting problems. And so there we go. Real-time broadcast translation automated. Thank you very much. Listen, here's the thing. Like Gurdeep said in the keynote, you can't have any of this cool stuff. You can't take advantage of this stuff if you're using 10-year-old technology, right? It's just not going to happen. Luckily, though, you're not going to be the first taking advantage of this, and pretty demonstrably here, you'll see lots of great proof points about how, specifically with voice, Microsoft is advancing both from an industry perspective and within customers. Now, 38% of US enterprises, more than any other vendor, say that Microsoft is going to be their preferred vendor for voice. I love the quote at the quote on the right there. Link voice adoption is accelerating and notably shifting the global telephony competitive landscape. And that's just what we've done over the last 5 years, right? Like that's effectively kind of judging us on what we've done 2010, 2013, now maybe a little bit into Skype for Business. So I get so excited and just so, again, helps you get out of bed in the morning to think about what we can do when we can really apply a lot of the power of our technology to other scenarios here. But, again, my fundamental value proposition, my fundamental proposition to you is that Skype for Business has the ability to eliminate the need for you to have separate adjunct PBX systems. And so when I kind of think through the features and all the different elements here, I generally look to break them up into these 4 groups. Into peer-to-peer calling within organizations, calling out to the PSTN and different capabilities for PSTN integration, calling features designed for the enterprise, and then how we integrate into your fundamental networking infrastructure on premises. So when we think about peer-to-peer calling, one, super easy to use, right? I mean, this is, I think, even something we were talking about back in the communicator days, but now even more so with Skype. It allows you to connect everywhere. And it's going to give you a great audio and video experience consistently. So let's talk about those easy-to-use features. Obviously, right at the top of the list, the fact that you've got the Skype look and feel, that user interface, that's now been blended in with the capabilities that we have brought forward from Link. That for the last, I don't know how many releases, you've been able to have a complete experience without the need to fire up a VPN. That you've been able to go and connect and communicate transparently. I don't have to think about, oh, am I on the network? Am I off the network? Oh, yeah, I would send you that file, but I can't. Everything just works transparently. I've got a great capability that I can go and mash a button and I can redial, but I also have my missed conversations and my calls and my meetings all in one place. And then, of course, for the folks that are PBX-centric, the concept of camping onto an extension, we do that. We just do it a little bit differently with presence. Tagging somebody so that when they come online, I can see that they're available and I can go, oh, great, I've been waiting for you. I need to go and talk to you about this thing. Super helpful when you're trying to track down a colleague who happens to be traveling in Asia, right? And you're not quite sure of the time zones. Oh, hey, great, you're online. Cool, let's talk. I can connect everywhere. Obviously, the federation capabilities of Skype for Business are really tremendous. I consistently have meetings with partners and analysts and other folks around the world who also have Skype for Business, doing customer calls with folks that have Link, and being able to do so with audio and video and its messaging, and then also being able to extend that to the Skype consumer side as well, opening up hundreds of millions of users on the Skype consumer side. Of course, anyone can join into meetings that are running on Skype for Business, and we've even made that more exciting, right, with the announcement around broadcast meetings. So now I can take my meeting, I can send it up to Azure, I can stream that out to the world, and everybody can go and consume that. And then finally, the superior audio and video experience of the client. This is something that it actually, there's a bunch of really thoughtful work that went into this. The idea that I want to be able to present to the user some kind of really easily consumable view of their quality, the quality of their network, just like the bars on their cell phone. The idea that I'm going to be really smart about the way that my devices operate. I'm going to show that to you here in a little bit. And I get feedback on things like, am I causing echo? Am I talking too softly? We put a little notification there up in the client. In fact, I have one right now up in my client that says, your speaker is muted. Perhaps that's why you can't hear anything. I mean, you want your software to kind of work for you, right? Not against you. And it takes some thoughtful engineering to make that happen and to make that real. And then finally, if I have multiple devices, I can move between them super fast, right? So if I'm on a headset, having a call with somebody walks into my office, bam, I can move that over to my speakerphone without having to kind of jiggle around or kind of figure things out. We actually have some partners that are taking this even further, and they're doing some really interesting things specifically with their devices, and have their devices kind of extend that even more. So I've got to go ahead and clean up a little bit for my demo. But actually, since we're here, let's see, am I on 8? I am on 8. I had to hang up the call that was running the translator thing that I had kind of wired up. And this is one of the new features of Skype for Business. Again, directly related to trying to driving great quality. This is a feedback indicator that will present up on a random basis, or actually, I should say on a random basis. We'll set a threshold and we'll let you configure that threshold for the percentage of calls that pop up this dialog. So you can have all the calls pop up this dialog, 10% of the calls pop up this dialog, asking, hey, how's the call quality? And it gives me the opportunity to have a given star rating, and then if there's anything particular going on with audio or video issues that I can go and mark those, these get then sent up into a database. You as IT administrators can then go, oh, hey, why is it that Bob's always having, audio quality issues? Perhaps Bob is using a goofy old headset that hasn't been qualified for Skype for Business, right? And you can go and reach out to them and say, hey, well, perhaps your calls sound so bad because you're always using the microphone on your laptop. Let's go and get you something that's a slightly better than that. So here's my client. So one of the things you'll notice here, I've got my primary device set up here, just using my PC mic and speakers. So first thing is that if I have my headset, and I go and I plug in my headset, first I have to, I'm going to give you a little bit of a view of what this headset is from Jabra. 2 parts. This part is USB, and it has a little control surface on it for muting and for changing volume, that sort of thing. And then this, while granted they do look like DJ headphones, they are incredibly comfortable, and they only look slightly goofy. So what you do is you take this, plug it into here, and it's super handy because I can use this with my phone and I can use this with my computer. So get that. I'm going to plug it in. Now when I plug it in, what should it do? It should make some weird screeching noise. That's curious and probably shouldn't do that. Let's start unplugging stuff. All right, let's see where we are. Okay, so what did it do? I plugged it in. By the translator was still going because I just kind of left it. So I'm like, all right, done with that demo, let's move on. So it was not being kind to that. So I plug it in, and what does it do? Oh, you want to use this, clearly. So it sets that now as my primary device. So if I go to make a call using this client, then it'll automatically start working. And I just realized that I'm on a tenant that is not going to give me the same capabilities that I want, so I'm going to go ahead and sign in with my creds and turn off all these machines because they continue to speak Mandarin at me. Like I said, first time demoing it. That's better. Hey, and look, my client's up and running. All right, so here's the deal. Plug in my headset, automatically detects, oh, hey, now you want to use this device. So let's call Microsoft. They have a little phone number here that will talk at me for a while. The cool thing that Jabra's done is that they've said, look, we can actually detect when this electrical interface is removed. We'll have software listening for that removal of that electrical disconnection. And then we can go and do something with that call. So the idea is I'm on the phone, having a conversation. I realize that I need to now move that call onto my mobile. So when I disconnect, it'll automatically fire off that call and transfer it to Skype for Business. Now, this is a not yet released feature by Jabra. So you can go and talk to them at the booth here at the show and find out a little bit more about when they're releasing this. You see, I've got my call set up. It's going through my headset. Yep. So when I go and I unplug, again, this is a beta feature by Jabra. And this is the way that I've found to make sure that it works consistently, is to restart the software, because I think my laptop has a lot of stuff going on right now. So get it plugged in, sees that I am running Skype for Business, sees that I've got my headset, so make my call again. Get my call nailed up, and now, demo God smile on me. No! Oh, this consistently worked when I would do the restart. Aww. I promise, this is actually a really cool feature. Oh my goodness. Well, the translator thing works, so I guess I shouldn't. But no, there's a reason we like doing live demos. They are kind of exciting and fun to do. And again, go ahead and we have this actually up and running in the booth, and go and check out Jabra. They're doing good stuff. Moving on, PSTN calling. This is a pretty fundamental part of the enterprise voice experience in Skype for Business. Being able to really easily manage my calls. Of course, I need to have the ability to do emergency services. I need to have the ability to associate locations with my users. And I want to have that PSTN facility integrated throughout my computing experience. So for simple call management, first, one of the things I'm really excited about here in this release is that we've been able to bring a new feature into the product called Call Via Work. Call Via Work extends our voice interoperability to PBX phones running against PBX systems. The idea is that now when I go to make a call, peer-to-peer call, PSTN call, whatever the case may be, when I go to make a call, instead of using the media stack that's running locally on the workstation, I'm going to nail up a call in two different directions. One is it's going to call me back, and I pick up the phone, and I say hello, and what I hear is ringing of the far end. And then the far end answers, and now I have a nailed up phone call. We've actually had this facility within the product for quite a while. It just took a couple steps to do. One. Two, we've had it for conferencing since we've had conferencing. The idea being, when I go to join a conference, I can actually have Skype for Business come up and say, hey, how do you want to join into this conference? Just like, wrong workstation. Just like this. So when I go to join my meeting audio, I can have it join in on the media stack that's running on the workstation, or I can have it call me back. Now, if I have a PBX phone sitting next to me, maybe I have it call me back on my PBX phone. Or maybe if I know that I need to go and make a run for the bus before the meeting's over, have it call me back on my mobile device. Or, even better, don't join audio at all. This is probably my favorite feature because we'll have meetings stacked up back to back to back to back to back, and invariably they always run long. So you can join into a meeting, don't join audio, you're hanging on to your old meeting, you join into the new meeting, fire up a whiteboard and say, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Fantastic feature. Seriously, no, it's very, very helpful. So Call Via Work essentially provides that same kind of call me back capability from conferencing, but it does it for peer-to-peer calls. The idea being that all of your users can have the ability to take advantage of Skype for Business voice functions, even if they're not ready to make that jump to having the phone removed from the desk. All the mid-call control capabilities are still there on the endpoint. So that call that's now running on my PBX phone that Skype for Business created, I can hold it, I can park it, I can transfer it, I can do all that stuff from the instrument. Pretty solid. We actually have a whole session tomorrow that goes into all the gory details around the signaling and the features and what it all looks like when you kind of set it all up end to end. Of course, I've got this great facility to also have my calls managed, where I can have them forwarded, I can have them simultaneously ring to other users, I can have them simultaneously ring to my cell phone. And I do that in a way that's just really easy to consume, right? I don't have to go through some really, difficult sets of dialogues in order to do that. If I know that I need to have my calls hit my voicemail, I can do so pretty quick. In addition, if I just set myself to do not disturb, my calls are going to roll into my voicemail, except for those people that are in your presence bucket that you've specifically set for them that says that they get to bypass that capability. And then finally, using the functions of Exchange Unified Messaging, you get a lot of very rich personal call handling capabilities. And I don't think a lot of people know this or remember it, but within Exchange, there's just a ton of kind of post-call routing that you can do. There's an example up here, maybe a little bit difficult to read, but the example is commute call routing. So if somebody calls and they're in my contacts in Exchange, and the time is between 8 and 9:30 in the morning. Now, actually, my commute's somewhere between 7 and 8:30 in the morning. On Monday through Friday, they can press 1, they can transfer to my mobile device. Or they can press pound and they can record a message. Then, so that's a ton of granularity, right? Like, not just random people are going to get a bop off to my cell phone, or if I wanted, everybody could go and bop off to my cell phone. And Exchange Unified Messaging gives you that facility. Emergency and location awareness. So of course, got very robust emergency services capabilities built into Link, and we're smart about the way that we did this, in that the location information is actually a function of presence. And so I can see in my client, based on my network location, where I'm at. So if I'm at home, it picks up the SSID of my router, of my wireless access point, and it says, oh, you're connecting to this SSID, got it. We know that you're at home, we'll pre-populate that location information with home. If I'm at work, it works using a location information server, and I take the subnet that I'm connected to, queries the location information server, and returns back and says, oh, great, you're in building 37, floor 2, north half, right? Based in, of course, you guys get to choose how, based on your network topology, those network locations map into physical locations, and then use that to drive location. We also have location-based number translation. So if I dial 4 digits, and I'm a user that's homed in France, that is going to have a different impact than if I dial 4 digits and I'm a user homed in the US. If something screwy happens and someone's happens to be bothering me and calling and breathing heavy or whatever, I've got the malicious call tracing. And then finally, Microsoft PowerPoint has stopped working. Man, I can't catch a break, really? But I can pick up where I last left off. Oh, good feature, except I guess it forgot that I advanced 2 slides. Oh, and then I've got to change my flip the do. All right. I love it. Anytime that I'm viewing a web page and I see a phone number, I get a click there, and then I can use that to go and drive a PSTN call. So I do a search, I find a restaurant that I want to go to, bang, I click and I dial it. Of course, we've got users who are perhaps not terribly familiar with the concept of dialing by name or any of this unified communication stuff, and they really want to have a 4x3 dial pad, there is not only a 4x3 dial pad, but there's also an icon of a 4x3 dial pad to make it really obvious that you click on the icon and you dial on the 4x3 dial pad, and that's a way that you can get calls made. And one of the fun things is that when you actually do that, when you click on the buttons, it'll actually populate in that UI element. Let's see if it'll, in that find someone or dial a number, it'll actually populate in that UI element. So kind of in a very gentle way, reminding the user like, oh yeah, as a matter of fact, you can in fact just type numbers in here and click go, and then it'll go and it'll make a call for you. Of course, you can assign inbound DIDs, you can do extension-based dialing, and then, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, you have the ability to, from within Office apps, use the contact card and go and dial all the numbers from within the contact card. So if somebody's publishing their work number or their mobile number, just dial directly from there as well. Completely integrated PSTN dialing. Of course, in the enterprise, we need even a broader set of features and capabilities that are generally deemed essential for end users in the enterprise. There's a lot of advanced call handling that needs to happen in the enterprise. And we need to have the ability to do kind of automated sets of calling. I need to have the ability to have a service be able to manage calls automatically. Wow, I swear this isn't me. I'm just clicking the damn buttons. My goodness. All right, well, let's go back. Yeah, is that where I left off? No, that's not where I left off, PowerPoint. Let's try again. And then I'm going to switch my display. All right, let's keep count. I know PowerPoint has crashed more times than I have inadvertently said link. That's all I got to say. The facility for calendaring, voicemail, unified messaging, all integrated within, go back, all integrated within Skype for Business. So I have my calendar view that shows all my meetings, I get all my voicemails here, and you see what that UI looks like, where those voicemails show up. I can even play them at different rates, which is terribly helpful. We talked about a wide selection of different IP phones, conference room phones, or different headsets and so forth. One of the things that I'm now a little nervous to show based on the one demo that I really wanted to go well is okay. So I'm a little happy about that, is the wide variety of IP phones. It's funny that even now, folks still come up to me and they still ask, well, you know, do you guys have phones? Like, is this something that you guys are doing these days? It's like, well, yeah, of course we have phones. And so this is the newest member of our phone family from a company called Yealink. Yealink happens to be based in China. And they have two devices that are now qualified with Skype for Business and Link 2013 as well. This is their low-end model. This is the T22. They also have a fancier high-end model, a T48, that we have running at the booth. It has a full screen color display. It's touch. It actually pulls the pictures off of your Link infrastructure and shows them on the phone display. Really, really compelling device at the high end. At the low end, for a phone that can literally go anywhere, this is a very, very well-priced device. The thing that's interesting, though, is that, once again, I'm not plugged into my corporate network. This is using my actual Microsoft credentials, but this is just connecting over the internet, and I still have the ability to go and log directly in using this type of device. So what you can imagine is you can distribute these devices regardless of whether those users are working out of the office or if they're home users. You don't have to send them a big kit of VPN routers and all sorts of other complicated equipment to set up. You ship them the phone, they sign in using PanAuth, and it's up and running. So, and it is still acquiring IP address, of course. Advanced call handling. So even beyond doing standard forwarding and simultaneously ringing, we've got even more sophistication that says I can actually use my calendar and Exchange to determine the way the calls move around. I have the ability to set up boss-admin relationships that we call delegation and allow somebody to manage calls on my behalf. I can, of course, park calls and then go pick them up somewhere else. I could park them on my desk and go pick them up in a conference room. I can do that call parking, of course, worldwide. That's something that it's funny when I talk to administrators of kind of traditional PBX systems. They're like, well, yeah, we could call park, but, only within our site. Well, I can park a call in Redmond and pick it up in Japan. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Because we're a consistent infrastructure that kind of knows the state of all these different areas. And then finally, a recent add into the product, group pickup. Now, I have two different flavors of that. I can have group call pickup using the team call capability where everybody gets presented with the call. And I also have group call pickup where if I just hear someone else's phone ring, I can dial a feature code and grab that call. One of the things, though, that I'm really excited to announce is that we're actually expanding this sophistication for a new set of capabilities that PBX administrators are going to be really familiar with, of shared line appearance. So this is the first time we're talking about this. It will be available in the fall for Skype for Business and for Link Server 2013. What this does is it allows multiple phones to be able to share their calls and the state information onto their, on their lines. I see a lot of phones out, and you guys are taking pictures. You realize that in 48 hours, not only are all these slides going to be available, but also all the silly stuff that's happened here too, right? Just saying, like, it's cool. Like, you could tweet it. I appreciate that, but you don't have to. It allows for really, really easy pickup between phones. It's an interesting feature. There's a lot of ways to solve some of the kind of fundamental business needs where you're having folks need to be able to kind of talk and move around pretty transparently. In some cases, folks use DECT. We support a bunch of DECT devices. In some cases, folks can use wireless headsets. In some cases, folks are using mobile devices. But in a lot of verticals, there are processes that are built around specific managing of phones and specific managing of calls. And so in some instances, businesses have changed those processes, and in some instances, that is difficult to do. So we wanted to be able to support customers that both wanted to kind of move to a more presence, user-centric view of the world, and be able to support customers as well that need to continue to have a more line-centric, circuit-centric view of the world. In addition to this being a set of capabilities that's running on the server, you're also going to need to have some updated firmware on your phones. And we're rolling this into the phone qualification program. The first devices that will be supported will be from Polycom. And again, said that this will be coming out very comfortably in fall. Definitely feel good about that. So let's talk about a little bit how it works. An inbound call arrives at a configured DID, and it fires up the SLA application. One of the things to note here is that this is not a media application. We're going to talk about media applications next. Response group services, announcement services, group call pickup, those are all media services. Shared line appearance is actually a signaling service it's running. So it scales really, really well. When that call comes in, all the endpoints are presented with the call at the same time. That's in this example here, the SLA1 is where the call is nailed up at extension 3001, but the line state is shown on all the other extensions as well. And here another call is coming in. Line state is ringing for SLA group 2, and it's going to pick it up on 3009. And then if I want to move that call, so for example, I'm a nurse and I'm working in a hospital, call comes in to the maternity ward, all the phones ring, I'm near the nearest phone, I grab it, I'm handling that call, I realize, oh, I actually need something over across the ward in order to handle this question. I put the call on hold, hang it up. Then I could go over to that other endpoint, I see the line state on that other endpoint, I pick it up and I grab the call from there. And then if all of the devices or all the shared line appearance slots that are configured are full, then we can go and overflow. We can overflow into voicemail, we can roll that into a response group, whatever we need to do. So really, really great new set of capabilities that, again, we're bringing out for both Skype for Business and for Link Server 2013, shared line appearance. And then, of course, we still want to be able to have calls be able to be handled in an automated fashion. Response group servicing, response group services, providing call treatment, call queuing, and call routing. So call can come in, I play a prompt back. I've got a bunch of different languages to be able to do that over text to speech, or I can have those prompts be recorded. I could queue, I could set a bunch of different capabilities on that queue. I can have queues fail over or fall over for one another. So I have too many calls show up in one queue, they can go and move over to another queue. I can do different, music on hold treatment and other stuff there. And then once an agent becomes available, I can do routing, and I got a bunch of different routing algorithms there based on presence, based on who's available. We bundle this in by default with the product. This isn't an extra set of licensing that we're trying to do here, and it includes all the text-to-speech and speech reco stuff that in most of the rest of the industry you got to pay more for. And of course, we can have additional sophistication around time of day or whatever. Some folks use this for contact centers. It's not designed for a contact center solution. It's designed for being able to handle the HR help desk or the IT help desk. One of the big things that we did in Skype for Business, though, is that we really worked on enhancing the resiliency of the response group services and the scale. We've doubled the scale across every possible parameter of the service. So folks that are using response group services at a high volume know that we stand behind this set of features and we stand behind this set of capabilities. But we also have the media service to handle unassigned number. So if you own a block of numbers and somebody leaves and that number is no longer assigned to them and somebody calls them, it doesn't just go to a fast busy. It goes to a service that says, that number is not available. Let's transfer you to an operator. Again, all essential things that enterprises need in order to be up and running. Having Skype for Business, almost said it, having Skype for Business as your PBX alternative. Finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about on-site networking, and then we're going to transition into some cloud topics. This is always a fun screenshot to get. Now the media stack is so performant that rolling into TCP view and trying to shoot the 5061 socket in the head, and then at the same time trying to take a screenshot is actually kind of hard. But this is what happens when you lose signaling connection up to your pool. Your media still continues to operate. Now I don't have a signaling connection, so I can't do stuff with this call, but my call is still up and running. I still have my media session there nailed up. Again, this is just part of the sophistication of the product. This and a media stack that is designed to handle the vagaries of the internet. Using here, codecs that adapt both for unmanaged networks and for managed networks. Of course, on your managed network, you have the ability to choose. Do I put this into a VLAN? Do I go and mark all the packets with DSCP46 in order to provide assured services or expedited forwarding across my network? And then from a data center perspective, if you lose your data center or you lose your connection to your data center, I can then go and fail over to a backup data center and vice versa. Or if I'm in a branch and I lose my connection up to the central site because our backhoe went through the fiber link or whatever, then my essential phone services are still provided by a resilient local processor, a survivable branch appliance. We fundamentally build interoperability into everything that we do. The kind of latest example of that is Call via Work. But Call via Work sits on top of a set of server interoperability for connecting to session border controllers and gateways and PBXs that we've had since 2007. If you go and you look at the number of IP telephony service providers that have been qualified for Link Server 2010 and 2013, it's effectively the list of everybody. No other PBX provider has that scale of qualification and testing. Of course, we're going to let you run virtualized. There's some really important things to think about. Of course, when you virtualize, you don't want to oversubscribe because with media services, milliseconds actually matter. But you can run all of your services, MCUs, mediation, everything else, you can run that virtualized now and have been able to for a while. And then finally, from an administration perspective, having PowerShell for doing scripting, in addition to having a graphical user interface, the Skype for Business Server Control Panel, it just rolls right off the tongue, for being able to do moves, adds, and changes in your environment. One of the new things that we brought into the product, the call quality dashboard, bringing a lot of advanced analytics into understanding how calls are operating across your network. Finally, I want to touch on some of the deployment flexibility. There's been a lot of new news here around how we've been thinking about cloud, how we think about Bill Vertine's favorite word, hybrid, and, of course, the on-premises capability. If you're just interested in replacing like for like, taking your existing on-premises PBX system and having Skype for Business Server 2015 be that new on-premises more than a PBX system. One of the ways that I think about this, and I've characterized this to other customers, when they come in for executive briefings and such, is that there's fundamentally kind of 4 eras of communications that I see, of kind of business communications. And the first started when deregulation happened, when folks are actually able to run on-premises equipment instead of just getting everything from the telco. There's a second generation that happened where we moved from circuit to packet. So now, instead of having a circuit switch PBX, and I had 2 wires coming into the office, now I have a packet switch PBX, and I have 1 wire coming into the office. It's a huge advancement for productivity. I'd argue now that we are in the middle of the third wave of taking packet switch telephony and turning it into unified communications. And that's really what folks are kind of talking about and thinking about and deploying broadly. But now you have an opportunity to consider the next step, and that's full cloud UC. That's what we're driving towards. And it's not going to happen instantly, and it's not going to happen perfectly, especially because there's going to be a lot that you're going to have on-prem that is older, that you still want to take advantage of, that you're still going to need to have resources running on premises to have that interoperate with the cloud. That's fundamentally what hybrid is about. Your on-prem interop gateway. Think about it in that kind of fashion. You know, when I think of hybrid, I have operations happening in the cloud and have operations happening on-prem, and I want to be able to have a view of them both, and I want to be able to manage them both. And ultimately, in the long-term time horizon, we want to get into a position where you're choosing, kind of based on almost an economic model, of where you want to have capabilities running on-prem and where you want to have capabilities running in the cloud. And some stuff like broadcast meetings just makes tons of sense to have that running up in the cloud, right? Why have all that bandwidth? Why have all those spindles? Why have all that transcoding running on your prem when you're going to use it for the all-hands meeting that happens every quarter? Rent it from Microsoft, right? We've got cycles to burn. We've got cores to burn. But you're going to want to use that with your on-premises communications infrastructure. That's why broadcast meetings requires that hybrid approach. When we think about purely online, this is enterprise voice running out of Office 365, where Microsoft is providing the PSTN service. Microsoft is the regulated carrier that is delivering PSTN services to you. Hybrid, user is hosted in Office 365, and there are going to be some facilities that you're going to run on-prem to be able to operate. In this case, what I'm going to talk about is specifically PSTN services. And then finally, you can have everything on-prem. All your end-user features, all your PSTN services, all running within your shop. So when I talk about cloud voice, and I kind of take the PSTN part out, there's two fundamental things that are always going to be operating out of the cloud: call control and admin experience for IT. So if I'm not thinking about the kind of PSTN service ingress egress piece, this is kind of what that looks like. On my prem, I've got devices and I've got users that are then going to connect up to Office 365 to be able to provide user services and be able to manage those user services. The first way to then add PSTN into that is a global calling service for Office 365 customers with our own Microsoft PSTN offers. So yes, there will be calling plans. No, I will not be disclosing what those calling plans are because my business managers would be upset. Those are absolutely what's coming next. What you should expect next from us is how do we buy, what does it look like, what does it cost, that sort of thing. And you'll be able to buy numbers, and you'll be able to move your numbers from your existing carrier over to this service. And it's coming to the US this year. I think Bill was even a little bit more specific, like soon, really soon. I was a little surprised by that, but he owns it. That's not where we're stopping, though, clearly. Microsoft, has never thought of itself as a US-only company. And we know that there is lots of opportunity elsewhere in the world, and that is not where we're stopping. We are going to look at all the regions of the world to be able to provide PSTN services to. So following in 2016, first in Europe. What does that look like? When I add in the PSTN services running off of Office 365, my media and my signaling going up to Office 365, and then Microsoft determining the call routing from that point forward up into the PSTN. Again, we're running north of 30% of all the international phone traffic in the world today And so we feel pretty good about the way that we manage this. It's not to say that the Skype telephony network is being brought into Office 365, but it's the operational complexity that we understand, that we are replicating for a business service that will have an SLA associated with it, that you will pay for and you can rely on. That's the fundamental thing that we're delivering with the cloud voice service out of Office 365. But that may not be where you are yet. And so you can have cloud voice, user homed in the cloud, admin services running in the cloud. But PSTN egresses through your customer prem equipment. This is for everybody outside of the US. There's not a regional requirement here. Your users are homed in Office 365, and you have a set of software that runs on-premise that, again, provides that on-premises interoperability gateway with your existing infrastructure. Your existing infrastructure does not know how to auth against Office 365. It does not run encryption by default. It does not understand identity beyond a number. That is very different from the service that we run. We run a service that's based on AD, that understands users, that is encrypted by default, that has strong auth. And so we need to bridge those two worlds, and we do that on-prem with software. This is coming slightly after the PSTN service in the US. This is absolutely here. We wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't going to be coming. So this is what that looks like. And a really important point here is that we want to be smart about the way that media is routed. Signaling, of course, continues to operate through the cloud. I want to have a single source of truth. So I want to have all of my signaling operating out of the cloud. But when I go to fire up a call, when I go to instantiate a media session, well, then I want to have that run locally. And so my media session goes, and it connects with my existing telephony infrastructure. What does this look like? Exactly the way it looks like today when I'm doing mediation against a 2010, 2013, or Skype for Business existing kind of deployment, and I'm sitting behind a PBX. User has a call that goes into a next top SIP peer. Hopefully we bypass to that next top SIP peer. Again, that could be a session border controller, that could be an IP telephony service provider. More often than not, that's an on-premises IP PBX. We have a direct SIP connection to that piece of equipment. And then that equipment is what egresses out to the PSTN. You keep your carrier, you keep your numbers, you keep all of those capabilities the same. We sit behind that, but that universe of that domain of software that's running on-prem isn't running MCUs. Those are running in the cloud. It's not running user services. Those are running in the cloud. When you go for reporting, when you go for analytics, all those are running up in the cloud. When new features are released, they are released in the cloud. But my physical connection to the PSTN goes through on-prem. There's going to be a lot of cases where, in addition to PSTN connectivity, hybrid makes sense. Maybe I want to have some users running on premises and I have some users running online. Maybe I have video infrastructure that, again, doesn't support the auth identity and encryption necessary for Office 365 and Skype for Business. That needs to run on-prem, and there's a video interop service that is now released as Skype for Business that can then interoperate in that fashion. So the important point, though, is that when we talk about cloud voice, don't get wrapped up in the PSTN piece of it. Cloud voice means my user's in the cloud and I'm administering it in the cloud. And then my PSTN is buy the service from Microsoft or run some software on-prem. About that software on-prem. Today, that's a pool. Today, that is absolutely, positively, that is a pool. And if that needs to be resilient, you need to do the standard activities to make that pool resilient. Over time, we want to engineer that pool to be less and less number of cores, less and less number of servers. And ultimately, the intent is to make that pretty tiny. It's not here today, but that's the directionality that where we want to go with that. And I think you've seen a few of our partners who have already started on that approach and have already kind of started down that path. Finally, of course, you're going to run it all on-prem. Here, today, we have lots of ability to then have direct access into your network and can do some really exciting stuff, like software-defined networking, where there's a connectivity that exists between your network infrastructure and the Skype for Business server, and an out-of-band signaling almost that occurs that says activities that are happening in Skype for Business that the network should be aware of, like I'm going to make a call over Wi-Fi, and you should prioritize the WMM and make sure that when it goes from RF onto the wire, that it hits the wire with the right DSCP. We do that today with Aruba. We do the automated quads with Extreme and with HP, a bunch of other companies. Actually, Pascal is talking about this right now during this session, so if you're interested in that, you should go and check out the recordings. It'll be awesome. There's a ton of vendors that he's got going. But bringing this up into the cloud is a much more sophisticated set of activities. Today, it's available on premises. Again, I can have that survivability across my WAN from the branch and for data center failure. And I have really sophisticated administration for least cost routing, for location-based routing, whole set of topics that Doug is going to talk about Thursday. Part of the premise of cloud is that we want this administration of telephony to be more simple. We want this to be more straightforward. And so there's a balance there between the kind of robustness and all the great configurability that you have in Skype for Business Server versus the ease of use that a lot of our customers are driving for in cloud services. So there's a balance there. It's not to say that we're not going to have a lot of this sophistication over time come into the cloud, but today, if you need that sophistication, that's available. That's available in the server product. So this is my fundamental premise. And now you have an interesting kind of thought problem to go through on whether it makes sense to start thinking about that fourth wave of communications, all driven off of cloud. That's where we're going. And clearly, one of the things that we want to do is to be able to drive more and more kind of interesting, different, exciting applications, like what I showed earlier with Translator, and be able to drive those into business communications contexts. And there's just a ton more detail that we have available here at Ignite. This is more kind of the complete list. So it includes Stahl's session that was on Monday, and actually that he redid today because the thing was so popular, 400 level on automating phone number management. Like, it's pretty cool. But if you want to know more about Call Via Work, Brian has that coming up on Wednesday. I mentioned Doug's session on Thursday. Cesar's going to go through all about hybrid. So hybrid from the perspective of splitting users, also hybrid from the perspective of thinking about the on-premises PSTN connectivity. And then finally, a whole session on call quality management and operations. So there's just a lot of richness that's here available at the show. And with my appropriate demo management, I have actually been left with 11 whole minutes that I would love to be able to... I know, right? Shocking. Not only do I not make you late for your next session, but I would love to be able to take questions. There is a microphone over there, but I think that's the only one, so that's really unfair. If you have lungs, feel free to use them and shout. Otherwise, we can try the microphone. But oh, that's right. I need to give out questions. I need to give out some shorts here. Oh, did my phone boot? This reminds me of an internal presentation I did about a year ago where I did an in-place upgrade, and everyone kept asking me, did your in-place upgrade finish? Did your in-place upgrade finish? Because I was running it off of my laptop, of course. Yes, my phone booted, as a matter of fact. And it shows that I have one new voicemail because I was presenting. All right, question, sir. Oh, there's a microphone there. Great.
There we go. For the call via work feature, is that something you can enable or disable via policy for those users?
Yeah. Not only can you enable and disable call via work through policy, you can also configure specifically what numbers that callback goes to. So the idea is that most of the time, and come on up here and I'll give you a shirt. Most of the time, you're going to want to have that go to their PBX phone, to the user's PBX phone. But there are going to be cases where folks may want to have that go and be configured to another PSTN phone. So maybe they're at Grandpa's house in Idaho. Grandpa has a 56K soda straw of an internet connection, right? Fine for signaling, not so good for media, and you want to have that be able to call back. I'm going to go left to right, so you're next. You know what? It wouldn't be tech ed if I didn't get a question about remote call control. And I think this will be, sorry, it's not exactly tech ed, it's kind of like tech ed. This will be the last time that I get a question about remote call control. Yeah, so remote call control is deprecated in Skype for Business. It will still work. I know, right? It's a beautiful thing. It'll still work, and we're actually, but it's definitely something that folks should think about. Oh, hey, excellent. It's definitely something that folks should think about moving away from. Call via work provides a lot of the same capabilities as remote call control, but it does so differently. It does so using direct SIP as opposed to using the CSTA interface. So yeah, we're definitely down that path. Yeah. Not aware of that one. Oh, so the first question was enter key was equivalent. And it would do a pound. That's not one that I've heard. Yeah. And your second question? So if you're saying that you're on a conference call and you want to repoint that conference call to a different extension? Oh, okay. Is your work phone a link? Is it a link phone? Oh, okay. So you're essentially double pairing the number, right? Oh. So two different call control platforms think that they own that number, right? Oh. You can imagine how having two different call control systems thinking that they own the same number could cause problems. That is one of them. That's something that we can kind of diagram out at the booth and see if there's some creative solutions to that through some of the folks. I know there's a lot of folks here who actually have done some fairly serious consulting for different types of interop scenarios for that, and we're happy to go and take a look at that and see if there's some stuff we can do. Yeah. All right, far end.
Okay, so at call quality.
Okay, right into the mic. It's impossible to hear you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so at call quality parameter, are you going to?
Oh no, sorry. Okay, try right into the mic.
Okay, it's audible. Okay, so at call quality parameter, are you going to show that actual value or just a different parameter what you have configured? Like MOS value or jitter, those are going to reflect in the survey page or not?
No, so the survey, the survey that I showed up here, the rate by call.
Exactly.
Yeah. that is the end user perception of that call. You'd want to marry that up with the QoE data that defines that call to be able to have that complete picture.
So
right?
can we configure that and reflect on the client, or it's not possible?
No, it doesn't populate into the client right now, but that is actually a really good piece of feedback to have to kind of populate up if you wanted to have that MOS populate up into that dialogue. I don't know if that's more leading the witness though. I think that you may have slightly better. Hey. Oh, okay. Well, Aaron's going to come and talk to you there for a second. But before he does, you should get a shirt. I'm going to try to throw it to you. And then I'm coming back there, I promise. Whoa! Excellent. Nice catch. Yes, sir.
So who can talk about the Genesis integration, and will that be supported with cloud?
My colleague Daniel, who would be down at the booth, has the details on exactly how Genesis got integrated. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, you're getting the last shirt. Oh! Yay! Shirts. Now I think we're going to ping pong. Yeah.
You mentioned the ACD piece wasn't meant to be used in call centers. Can you tell me the limitations?
You know, the biggest thing is that in contact centers, you really want to be able to drive activity, right? So at a lot of contact center platforms, instead of actually setting up and tearing down media connections, those products are designed to set up a media connection and then switch it in the back, right? So there's a constant media connection to the agent, and then I'm switching in the back as new calls come in, so that there's no, in a big contact center, that is a significant, that could be a significant cost as you add it up across your number of calls and your number of agents. So that's the first thing, is that we're not designed like that. We're designed to set up a media session, tear it down, set it up again for the next call. Real-time analytics in the response group services aren't there. There are some third-party products that have added that on that you can go and check out that have additional detail on kind of how many calls do I have in queue and that sort of thing. Those pieces aren't there. A real contact center, you're going to have quote-unquote real. You're going to think about having routing based off of multiple dimensions, right? So if an inbound call comes in, do I route based off of the type of caller? Like, are they a high-value caller or are they a low-value caller? I'm going to want to route based on what language they speak, what agents are available to speak those languages. In a really sophisticated scenario, I want to have each of those things be rated, right? So if I have a high-value caller coming in that speaks Spanish, I don't necessarily want to drive them to, is that enough? Okay. Thanks.
Where will multiple line appearance be administered? Is that CIFA, or is that going to be in the GUI?
Oh, good question. PowerShell. We got PowerShell commandlets for it. I'm 90% sure. Okay. Drop me an email and I'll follow up with the dev. I'm 90% sure that we're actually doing it on PowerShell.
Not in the GUI and not CIFA.
Correct.
Hopefully not CIFA. So
yeah, I know. The love for CIFA is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is minimal at best, I think, would be the fair statement. Still ping-ponging? Yes.
Hi. Any changes in the way call and mission control works with Skype for Business?
There are no changes to the call and mission control.
So it's the same way as 2010, 2013?
Yep.
No additions, no nothing else?
If you've got some feedback on it, meet me at the booth tomorrow or Thursday, and let me know.
Okay, no, I was just curious about it.
Probably, honestly, CAC is one of those interesting things that a lot of traditional systems kind of rely on, and I wonder how much of it is in a cloud-based, SDN-enabled world. I wonder how much of that has utility going forward. I'm not saying that we're going to drop CAC. Don't take it that way, right? But it's an interesting question in terms of the amount of engineering resources that we put into CAC versus otherwise.
Okay.
So thanks.
Thank you.
It's probably an easy one. We're heavy persistent chat users.
Closer to the mic.
We are heavy persistent chat users. Is persistent chat going to be in Office 365 with Skype for Business?
You do realize that you were in a voice session, right?
I understand.
No, it's totally fair. There are, at this point, there are no plans to bring pchat into Office 365. There's similarly no plans to take away pchat. Pchat continues in Skype for Business. There's no plans on changing that on the server side. For looking forward, though, a lot of the facility, you can see a lot of the facility that pchat offers being delivered by the Office 365 group's capability. And that it's a little bit more rich in terms of the capability to administer those groups, the facilities those are that's provided therein. We know we've got lots of customers that they're still using pchat, still getting a lot of value out of pchat. No interest in messing that up on the on-premises side. But it's an interesting question on, as we think about having these services up in the cloud, we do have an opportunity to reimagine them. We do have an opportunity to say, hey, if we kind of start over from scratch, how do we do it? We think that Office 365 Groups is that path.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any changes regarding
Okay, right, close to the mic.
Any changes regarding the IP phones? Is there a new Link Phone Edition or anything like this?
Great, yeah, good question. Link Phone Edition continues to be called Link Phone Edition. We didn't rebrand that client. So when users started up, it's not going to say Skype for Business Phone Edition. I don't know if there would be enough space in the window on that device to actually show Skype for Business Phone Edition. But it still works. It still is absolutely supported. Still registers. No worries there. The direction that we're going on phones, though, is pretty clearly on the third-party devices, right? One, they have a much broader range of models. Like, you look at the portfolio of Polycom, you look at the portfolio of Yealink, like, it's just, it's night and day difference, right? In terms of how many different types of devices, all the different types of capabilities they're in, first. Second, they are, in any case that I can think of, off the top of my head, they're equivalent now, in fact, even more so than what is available in Link Phone Edition. Like, it used to be that, Link Phone Edition, you would use that because you could have scenarios where I'm operating the Link client and I'm running the phone as an audio endpoint, and to have that be really clean. All of them do that now, right? And they actually do it better. You don't need the USB cable between the workstation anymore. They do it all over Ethernet. That's just as one example. But there's a ton of examples of capabilities that they're driving that don't exist in the Link Phone Edition platform, just because of some fundamental limitations of that platform. So they're much more agile there. And one of the great examples is the work that Polycom has done with us for shared line appearance. Like, that is very much a case where you need to have a kind of traditional view of multiple lines and everything else, and the lights and the buttons and everything else that Link Phone Edition doesn't have a kind of UI concept for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hey.
Hey, this is a small question, but it's been annoying for us. DTMF codes in multi-party voice conferences have historically had problems. Any change?
So if I am, is this a case where I am in a conference and I have a line coming out of that conference into like another conference, and I want to be able to pound digits down that line and actually have them flow into a third-party conference? Is that the scenario?
Yeah, that's a general sense. I call you, and together we call support for someone. Well, thank you for calling Microsoft. You hit the numbers.
Yep, totally. The way that there is a way around that isn't the most elegant, I will offer. And the way that you do that is you go and you place that outbound call that has to navigate through the phone tree first, and then you have it, and then you join that into the MCU. But yeah, the MCU blocks the DTMF from egressing out.
That's a feature, not a bug?
That is a feature. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
And we're empty over there, so it's all you guys.
Shared line appearance, is it going to be available for Aries devices?
No. Right now, it's just going to be on the Polycom VVX line. There's one device that we're working with them on to get that up and running. Once that's qualified, Polycom will have a choice to be able to qualify more devices. We expect that all their multi-line devices they'll look to bring in through the qualification program. That feature will be rolled into the 3-PIP program broadly, so the other providers like Sonoma Audio Codes and Yealink will be able to pick that up as well. Thanks.
Great. Well, my first question was just answered, so I'll go right to my second question. On hybrid deployment with PSTN connectivity from the customer prem, you said software deployed at the customer prem. Will that be a front-end server or something like it?
No, it's a pool. Like it's let's
a pool,
call a spade a spade. It's going to be a pool. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Now again, over time, from one perspective, for an existing customer, migrating them into the cloud, this will just work, right? You'll establish a hybrid topology with Office 365. You'll be able to move your users up into the cloud. You'll be able to use those server resources to be able to have calls ingress and egress through your existing topology. For folks net new, yeah, you're going to have to set up a set of servers to be able to manage this. I think over time, you're going to see vendors coming out and saying, well, look, it's just a set of servers. We'll run that in a collection of VMs. We'll put that into a single box. We'll radically reduce, one, the number of services that are running on those boxes. You won't need conferencing. You won't need some of these other user services. That'll help slim it down. And two, we'll slim down the number of kind of users that are homed on that device, because they should all be homed in the cloud. So the potential is it's still going to be a pool, but it will be able to run in a much smaller platform. Again, some of our partners like Audio Codes are doing some of this stuff today.
Right. And
that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Cool. Thanks.
And when would we be able to start doing this for our customers?
Definitely want to get it out as soon as we can. I think the official word, just to make sure that I'm not making stuff up, is starting in 2016. So I think we'll have some early adopter work that happens in calendar Q4, kind of, preview and that sort of thing. But in terms of general availability, I'd expect it early in this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Are we good? Hey, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. This was fun, even though, had demo, good stuff. Submit feedback, submit emails. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. No, sorry, my bad.
Any plans to bring the Skype for Business translation engine to on-prem?
So there's a Skype translator preview is what I was showing. That's a consumer service thing, right? And I just showed kind of a proof of concept of having that operate in Skype for Business. I think that's a great example of a set of capabilities that you really couldn't have running on-prem. The reason being is the kind of sheer amount of processing and data that's required to run this stuff with that kind of latency is pretty gigantic. So when you think about doing the speech recognition, doing the translation, and then the text-to-speech coming back and doing it in a way that actually facilitates two-way human communication, it's got to be super quick. And there's just, this is one of those things that in our cloud, we're going to throw cores at the problem. I can imagine there are going to be some cases where in the long-term time horizon, when this does become a business class service, we can wrap an SLA around it, and we can tell you about what the quality looks like, and you can have some expectations around that. We can put a support contract in it. We can sell it to you, that sort of thing. There's going to be stuff we're going to want to look at, like encryption and data at rest. And for example, if you're doing translation with your financial services, you're talking with a customer in Macau, and they're calling into New York about their investments, and that is going through a translation engine that's in the cloud. You're going to want some assurances that that translation data isn't available to everybody, right? So there's going to be stuff like that that will be part of the service level agreements that we would put around a business service. Again, long way off, but where we need to start from is getting lots of great utterance data in the Skype translator preview.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
The Silk codec for conferencing
is not in Skype for Business today. Silk is kind of slowly being rolled out across the portfolio. We first did it in mobile because it had a pretty demonstrable advantage to 722, which was the prior mobile codec. As you may not be aware, RTA doesn't run in single core systems, and so we were running 722 in mobile. That's both an expensive codec and it's fairly susceptible to loss issues. So we wanted to roll that into mobile. We were able to do that. Now Silk is the default for the rich client as well. Clearly next is we're going to want to do that in the MCUs, but such a big change like moving the default codec, we want to be judicious about it, watch our stats, watch the data, make sure that we're engineering it the right way. So as opposed to like, surprise, everything now is Silk, we're kind of staging it out across different media services.
That will be, I think, one of the biggest reasons or use cases to move to Skype for Business Server for customers who are running Link 2013. I think that is, using a better codec for conferencing is a huge thing.
That's good feedback. I'll be perfectly honest with you, though. There is a tremendous amount of under-the-skins investment engineering work that we did, both from a just kind of pure efficiency perspective in Skype for Business and from a serviceability perspective that it directly will impact your life. For example, the patching process in Skype for Business, instead of being a ridiculously huge flowchart with 40 different steps, it's like 5. Like, we really, I got to give a ton of credit to the engineering organization that they really were thoughtful about the experience of the IT pro and investing in that very deeply for in-place upgrades, for improved patching, and for just some pure fundamental, really underneath the skins enhancements to things like Fabric and conference directory management and some other stuff that came up in the 2013 product history. And all that stuff is rolled in to Skype for Business. Now, some of it we backported into 2013. Some of it came out as hot fixes and CUs, but a significant percentage more wasn't able to do that, and we were able to bring that into Skype for Business. So between that and in-place upgrade, honestly, it is something that we really wanted to stop and say, what are all the different impediments to customers upgrading, and how can we remove them? Okay, we want to make sure that we support all the different third-party integrations. So all the databases and OSs and IP telephony service providers and application delivery controllers, reverse proxies, all that third-party stuff is all the same. So that's not an impediment. We wanted to make sure that the process was super straightforward, and that's where in-place upgrades comes from. So yeah, no, we really engineered this pretty deeply.
One non-voice question.
Well, I've already had one about PChat, so go ahead.
Desktop sharing remains one of our biggest challenges for users who are not on the Office network, working from Starbucks or from their homes. Are there any improvements in Skype for Business Server today?
None that I can announce publicly.
Is something coming in the works that will ease some of our pain here?
None that I can announce publicly at this time.
Okay.
That's as much of a wink and nudge as I can do. I mean, I generally try not to break into jail at shows like this. But no, we totally have heard customer experience on desktop sharing, both from a quality perspective. We got customers that are like, hey, we're sharing CAD systems, and we want to be able to have really high perf desktop sharing. And we've had the opposite of customers saying, boy, we're just sharing PowerPoints, and why is the bandwidth so high? This is crazy. We were able to address the first one. Now there's a high perf desktop sharing switch that's available in 2013 and Skype for Business. We definitely know that we want to work on the next one, but unfortunately, there's nothing that I can announce today. If you have a salesperson that you can talk to and get the non-disclosure agreement required roadmap for Skype for Business, perhaps there would be some things in there.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Are we good? We're good. Thanks, everybody.